Many Call of Duty Zombies fans have been really wanting to see classic mechanics return to the franchise, so much so that it seems to be one of the main things people keep asking for to return in Black Ops 7. But a lot of people are not very optimistic about classic mechanics returning, and rather a lot of people think they might do some sort of classic mode to give classic fans something to enjoy. Classic mode was also leaked a while back. Before Black Ops 6 even came out, there was a string in the files that specifically said classic mode. Now, a lot of people could have been misinterpreting this string, but it also could be for Black Ops 7, and it very well could be a full-on classic mode. Apparently also the classic mode was brought up in a Black Ops 7 focus group, which happened a while ago, and of course this one, it did get leaked with a lot of campaign and multiplayer information, and a lot of that campaign and multiplayer information ended up being kind of true because of the recent Black Ops 7 campaign reveal. We were able to learn a lot more about the game, and a lot of that stuff was true, so it's very possible that the classic mode leak is probably true as well. In my opinion, I definitely would love to see classic mechanics return. I think we definitely need more classic mechanics in zombies. And so a lot of you would think that I would be perfectly fine with the core game being just like how it is nowadays with the modern mechanics, and then there being a classic mode available that allows you to basically just get full classic mechanics in the game. And to be completely honest, I don't think that would necessarily work, and I don't think it would result in the best possible experience that a zombies game can go with. And of course, I could be wrong on this, but I wanted to go through my thoughts on this, why I think a classic mode won't work in Black Ops 7 Zombies, what that classic mode might end up actually being like, if it will exist at all, and also, of course, what I think they should do instead for the mode. First of all, I wanted to talk about what is the most likely outcome for a classic mode in zombies. What would make the most sense for them to do for this mode? In my opinion, I think it would end up being, first of all, no loadouts. So you would just spawn in with the starting pistol. They would just pick one of the pistols in the game that's most closely related to the M1911, and then would have that be your starting pistol. And you would start with that. It would obviously be gray rarity, because I'm assuming there would still be a rarity system even in this classic mode. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I don't think they would remove the rarity system because, to be completely honest, that would be very difficult to manage. I think they would have to do a lot of reworking of the game. So I do think this classic mode would still have the rarity system, which obviously is not going to feel all that classic. I think they might also remove armor from this mode, or at the very least make it so armor is earned in a very different way, and then maybe also remove armored zombies because of that to kind of like balance it out. I also think they would remove score streaks. I don't think there would be any score streaks whatsoever. I don't think there would even be a crafting bench at all. You wouldn't be able to get any items from the crafting bench, and I think the HUD would be very simple by default. So you wouldn't get a mini map, you wouldn't get the score feed on your screen, health bars probably wouldn't be there as well. It would basically just be what the classic HUDs were in the older games by default. I think there's a chance they would bring back the 4 perk limit in this mode as well, and I genuinely think all of that, what I just said, would be the entire mode. I don't think they would go any further than that. I don't think they would remove rarities. I don't think they would change the point system back to the classic point system, which in my opinion is the most important aspect of classic zombies. If you don't have the classic point system, I just don't think it's going to feel classic whatsoever. And the same kind of goes for rarities. I think rarities definitely takes a lot away from that classic feel of zombies. And stuff like the AI of the zombies and how they move, all of that is just not going to feel classic. So no matter what they do, the game is not going to feel designed around those classic mechanics. It's not going to feel like the maps were built around it. You're just going to have this mode that just kind of restricts you from a bunch of items and doesn't really find other ways to implement them. Because I've talked about this many times before, I don't have an issue with score streaks in zombies at all. I actually enjoy the idea of having score streaks. I just think they need to be implemented differently, and we need more zombies unique ones. It wouldn't fix the game by just removing score streaks and just not having that stuff available. I don't think that would actually help at all. It would just take away content from the mode. That's all it would do. And also, when it comes to the perk limit, the game is not designed around balancing the perks so you have a perk limit. So let's say they were to bring back the perk limit in this mode, I don't think it would work that well, because if they did have a perk limit by default, they would probably balance the perks a bit better so they're more equal in quality, but that's obviously not how perks are designed nowadays. They're designed for you to buy all of them, and so I don't think that would work nearly as well as it would if it was just the core mechanic. And as I mentioned before, just the fact that the maps will have to be designed around one specific set of mechanics, it's going to work better and the maps will play better with the main mechanics of the game, which of course would be the modern mechanics. It's not going to be designed around these classic mechanics. So I don't think people will enjoy playing this mode nearly as much as if the maps were actually designed around the classic mode. This would result in people who genuinely really love classic zombies and really love classic mechanics not even playing the classic mode that often, because why are they going to play a mode that just restricts them from more content in the game and also doesn't really play that well with the maps themselves because it wasn't designed around it. Also, inevitably, this mode would likely be a bit harder than the regular mode because of these different restrictions, like forcing you to start with the pistol. So there will be many instances where players don't want to play this mode because they don't want to put themselves at a disadvantage. This even goes for people who prefer a challenge, who actually enjoy a challenge, but if they're not being rewarded for it, they might just choose the easier path regardless. I have a whole video on this topic, definitely recommend you go check it out, but it's the whole concept of if you give players harder options without any rewards for it, then players might not choose it majority of the time, even if they enjoy the gameplay of a harder mode more. An example can be when the Easter eggs drop for new maps. Most people are not going to sit there and say to themselves, oh, I'm going to play the harder mode that's going to make it harder for me to solve this Easter egg, and that's going to make it harder for me to keep up with the rest of the community in trying to solve it. No, they're going to play the mode that's going to make it a bit easier for them. Unless, of course, there are unique rewards given for the classic mode, but like I said, I don't really expect that, so I just don't think people are going to be playing it in every single instance. Another problem with the classic mode idea is the fact that I genuinely think it would divide the community in such a significant way, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a Year of Zombies where everybody is playing a completely different version of the game. And I'm not saying it's completely different because, of course, like I said before, they wouldn't change like all of the mechanics. They would probably still have a lot of the mechanics stay the same, but you would still be playing a different version of the game. And I think talking to people about zombies, having communications about the maps, the difficulty, the way it plays, it really is a lot more fun when everyone is on the same page about it, or at least close to the same page when it comes to what version of the game they're playing. But if everyone has this very different version of zombies that they're playing, then it would be quite strange in my opinion. And lastly, when it comes to the problems with the classic mode, I really do think a lot less people would play the classic mode than the regular mode, because that goes for pretty much any game in existence. You see any video game ever, the majority of players will be playing the default way to play. That even goes for Call of Duty multiplayer. The default mode in COD multiplayer is usually team deathmatch. But does that mean that's the most enjoyed game mode in COD history? I don't think so. I think people would much prefer domination, hardpoint, search and destroy, etc. But everyone plays team deathmatch because it's just the default mode. It's the one that appears first on the screen when you're looking for game modes, so people are just genuinely going to play it more often, and that's why it's the most played game mode of all time. And you look at any video game, like I said, it's just the default way of playing it is the one people will always be playing more, regardless of if people might prefer other game modes. So I don't want Treyarch to see those statistics and go, oh, only 20% of players have been actively playing the classic mode in this game, so that must mean they don't want to see classic mechanics ever again. Maybe we should just never do them and never even try to do them in the future. And that would obviously suck quite a bit, especially if it was kind of like a half-assed mode like I've been talking about before. I don't even think I would play it that often if it was like that, because like I said, if I don't have stuff like the classic point system, it's just not going to feel the same. It's just going to feel like a restricted mode, so I probably won't play it. Does that mean I don't want classic mechanics again? No, of course not. But I am worried about how they would use that statistically speaking, because they've done this before. They recently did this with Warzone, where Raven Software added these casual modes to Warzone, and basically these modes have a bunch of bots in it. Like, they are just filled with bots. There's barely any real players in it, and people have been playing this mode a lot. So much so to the point where they actually removed the regular solo battle royale playlist that has all regular players, because they said that more people were playing the casual version of it, so why would we keep in this other version? Of course, they did retract this eventually. Thankfully, they added back solo battle royales to the game, but the fact that they even thought about removing it because people weren't playing it that much compared to the casual mode is kind of ridiculous. The only reason people were playing that casual mode is so they can grind the camos faster and easier. That is literally the only reason people were playing it, and I guess some people also just like to have a more chilled experience. But does that mean that the regular solo mode should just not exist anymore? The actual thing that people mainly play battle royale for, to have that competitive aspect against other players and actually be competing against real people? Why would you remove that? Doesn't make any sense to me. But like I said, thankfully they added it back. Now, although I really don't think a classic mode would work, I do want to go over a few points of how it could work if they were to implement it properly. First of all, if they actually significantly changed the core mechanics, such as removing rarities and also bringing back the classic point system, that would help tremendously. That alone would get me to play it, because I absolutely love the classic point system. And even if they were to remove stuff like score streaks, I would still want to play it because, like I said, I love that classic point system. And not not having rarities would be great as well. I'm not a big fan of the rarity system. I kind of was back in Black Ops Cold War, but I've kind of just gotten sick of it by now. I want to see something different. Not really a fan of how it plays anymore, so I would love to see them change that up. And a classic mode, if it was able to do all of that, which like I said, I just don't think they would be able to, but if they were, that would be great. It would also be really nice if instead of just removing all those other things that I mentioned, they found a way to implement them differently. For example, score streaks. Don't remove them from the game entirely, just make it so you can't get them out of the crafting bench. Make it so you have to do quests for them, or you have to hit the mystery box for them, or something else. Just find other ways to get score streaks instead of just buying them with salvage. Hell, I would love it if salvage was completely removed from the classic mode altogether, and anything that you need to get salvage with normally could just be earned in other ways. That would be really, really awesome, and I would definitely play the mode more if that was the case. I would also love it if map mechanics changed depending on the mode you were playing. For example, a lot of these side quest rewards are stuff like ether wrenches and salvage and stuff that, like I said, I don't even want to see in a classic mode in the first place. So why not make those side quests reward you with other things that are maybe more useful in a classic mode, maybe like extra perk slots, because if this classic mode had a perk limit, then the more of these side quests in the game should give you free perks or free perk slots. They don't even have to be actual perks. They could just be slots. So overall, I would be okay with this classic mode idea if it was like this, but I really don't want to see them completely rely on the classic mode as being something that will satisfy classic zombies fans. And so you might be asking, what is the alternative? Should they just completely revert the mechanics back to the classic formula? Because a lot of people might not be happy with that. A lot of people love the modern zombies mechanics, and also this game is coming so soon after Black Ops 6, it might feel kind of jarring for some fans, especially newer fans, to go from those mechanics to some completely different set of mechanics for Black Ops 7, especially if there's going to be carry forward, which is already tons of leaks suggesting that the gobblegums from Black Ops 6 are going to carry forward into Black Ops 7. So of course, some of the mechanics just kind of have to return. So what I think should happen is that they need to find a way to mix the classic and modern mechanics together. They desperately need to do this, especially for Black Ops 7, and I'm really hopeful that they will at least change a few things. Like I said before, the classic point system would be amazing to see. Am I okay with seeing some of the more modern stuff stay the same? Like, for example, rarities, if they keep those, like I've said, I'm not going to be thrilled about it, but I would be okay with it. I would deal with it. Stuff like the minimap by default. I kind of want the minimap gone completely, but you know what? If they have it there, whatever, I'll deal with it. It's not the end of the world. Even loadouts. I don't like loadouts. It's one of my biggest problems with modern zombies, but I could at least accept that if they at least bring in the classic point system, and also just finding more map unique things, finding more map unique features like the older games usually did, finding other ways for players to earn stuff like score streaks so they can't just spam them as much as you can in modern zombies. There's definitely things they can do that makes the classic and modern mechanics a bit better, and I would definitely be way more happier with that. But of course, if it was up to me, we would be cleaning house with the modern mechanics. We would definitely be going back to classic mechanics for Black Ops 7. It's been way too long since we've had a classic feeling zombies game. When you really think about it, we've actually had the same amount of zombies games with the classic mechanics as we've had with the more modern mechanics, especially if you're just talking about Treyarch. We had World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 3. That's 4 zombies games with the classic feeling mechanics. BO4 kind of sits in more of a middle ground where it kind of feels more modern, but it also has some classic stuff in there as well. And then of course you have Cold War, Vanguard, Modern Warfare Zombies, and Black Ops 6, and possibly Black Ops 7 if they decide to do the modern mechanics. That will be 4 or 5 games with the modern mechanics. So it is definitely time to go back to some more classic feeling modes, or at least trying to change up the formula a bit so it feels more like what those older games did. I think it's just time for that. Another suggestion that I have for what they should maybe do to try and please everyone is to just change what the mechanics are like game to game. Go from classic mechanics, then to modern mechanics, then go back to classic, then back to modern. And obviously that wouldn't work that well with Treyarch being the only studio making zombies. I've talked about this many times before, but I think we really need to see Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer Games, or maybe even both studios, make their own zombies modes, because to me this would work out pretty perfectly. So let's say Black Ops 7 was going to have more modern mechanics, maybe kind of like a mix like I mentioned before. There's a little bit of classic stuff in there, but then Sledgehammer comes out with their own zombies mode in 2027, whatever the game that is going to be, and that game goes full on with classic mechanics, like we're talking a Black Ops 3 feeling game. And then Treyarch's next game is in 2028, and that game goes back to the more modern mechanics with stuff like the rarities and loadouts and all of that. So you basically have a very different feeling zombies mode year to year, and people are going to just stick to what they enjoy more. I mean, if people want to just play Sledgehammer's zombies mode that year because they think the classic mechanics are way better, they can keep playing that even when Treyarch's new game comes out. Like, I think doing a different set of mechanics year to year could be pretty helpful for the zombies formula. It could stop it from getting stale too quickly because, like I said, I think the modern formula is starting to get quite stale. I mean, personally, I've been kind of sick of it since Cold War, but I think most people are starting to get a little bit sick of it by now, and they want to see something change. Even if it's not significant change, they want to see something change. All in all, we are likely going to be getting a lot more information about Black Ops 7 Zombies in the next few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a full reveal of the mode within the next month. So I definitely think we will learn more about this in a little bit. And I'm definitely excited to learn what Black Ops 7 Zombies is going to be like, because to be honest, as much as I'm really worried and I'm definitely skeptical, I'm mostly optimistic about this game. I think I'm more optimistic about the multiplayer side of things, but Zombies, I still do have a sense of optimism about it. I do think it's going to be better than Black Ops 6, but I don't know by how much. I really want it to be one of the best Zombies modes of all time, and I would love for some of the maps to be some of the best maps of all time. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I will see you on my next one. Peace out.